Beautiful.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Ayelet Rose-Gottlieb.
Hi. Thank you
Hi.
so much for having me. This is so fun.
You're welcome. When I first was introduced to you, um, I'm sure Jay Clayton had mentioned your name before, but for some reason in the last few months, I really got a chance to go and look at what you're doing, your work, and I was so uh, happy and affected in a good way. And, you know, I always hate saying I'm impressed, but, it made an impression on me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
You know, I don't know how old you are, but you seem very young for all that you've accomplished.
I'm 41. I'm not that young.
But you
But I
have
appreciate that.
you have accomplished an awful lot.
Oh, thank you. Well, I started youngish, I think. It was very clear for me from a really young age that this is what I'm going to be doing. So I kind of hit the ground running, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, boy, I'm not sure where to start because, like I said, there's so much that you've done, and um, I definitely want to ask you some specific questions about what you've done, but I also just like to talk about perspectives and,
Hmm.
what we think, what we just kind of are looking at and thinking about. But so don't let me stray away from that part.
Okay.
I do want to get into what you've done because, as I said, you've done so much and it's pretty impressive. Um, so, okay, so you were a child
Once upon a time.
once upon a time, and you're Israeli, right? So you grew up
I
in
am. I
Israel.
grew up in Jerusalem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think you said already that you always knew that you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So, did
I didn't
you?
know what shape it was going to take, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. For you as well, did you know growing up that you were going to be a musician or?
Yes, my dad was a musician, my mom was a singer, and my twin sisters, who were 4 years older, they both sang and one played piano. So,
Mm.
and so I started playing instruments early, and also I was a real ham. So,
What
I
does
knew
that
I
mean?
loved that.
I don't know what
Ham.
that means.
Oh, ham is like, hi everybody, yeah, it's me,
Okay.
me, me, that kind of, that's the ham. And
Okay.
also, when I would go to rehearsals with my dad, the musicians would flirt with me. I was 4 and 5 or something. And so I thought, yeah, I like this. But my dad introduced me to a lot of, great jazz.
Hmm.
And I just really, it was simpatico, it was just,
Hmm.
I knew, there were other things that I thought about doing as I grew older, but I always had the music. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so for me too, it was basically I grew up also in a house that had a lot of music in it. My dad plays guitar. He's not
oh,
a guitarist who plays professionally full time, but
yes.
he plays a lot, and he likes, he loves music passionately. And my grandfather played the clarinet, and my uncle on the other side plays music, and my dad's brother is a drummer. So there's lots
Oh,
of
yeah.
music around.
Yeah.
And my dad had a huge record collection, as did his father, and my uncle. And my uncle moved to Australia when I was a kid, and he gifted me his entire vinyl collection,
Wow.
which was quite massive and very like eclectic. So I got exposed to a lot of different music very early on. Um, so really, genre didn't play a part in the way that I listened to things. I played classical music. I played classical flute as a child. But my ear was drawn in many directions. And then I started composing music when I was about 15, 16. And singing followed that actually.
And did you play piano or anything like that?
A little bit when I was a kid, but not really. I mean, I use the piano to transcribe what I'm hearing in my ear,
Yeah,
but I can't really play. I mean, I'm not at all a
yeah,
pianist. I played the flute. That was my main instrument.
yeah.
And then when I was about 17 or so, Arnie Lawrence moved to Israel. I don't know if you know
I
him.
don't.
He actually started the New School in New York,
Oh,
and he used to be on the Tonight Show, and he played with many people. I think he toured with Dizzy at some point, and Stan Getz, and
huh.
different. Yeah, he was like a New York musician. And he moved to Israel for the last 10 years of his life.
Wow.
Yeah, and he
That's
really,
interesting. Arnie Lawrence. You would think I would know his name because I knew most of the people on the Tonight Show, and I've lived in LA for a long time.
yeah. Maybe I'm getting the show wrong. It might be a different show. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
But anyways, at some point he started the new school, and then he moved to Israel for the last, like he lived there for the last 10 years of his life.
Uh-huh.
His Some of his children are also musicians on the scene right now, like Maria. I don't know if you know Maria Lawrence. She's an incredible singer. She just put out a record.
No.
But I'll send it to you later because you'd
Okay.
enjoy it. But yeah, so she's very active musician, and his son Eric Lawrence. We actually did an album in tribute to him last year.
Ah.
Yeah, so he moved there when I was 17, and then he had a regular gig at a cafe. He actually made that place into a jazz club. And one day somebody told on me, told him that I was a singer. Me and my friend Yulia, who was there with me, and he just walked up to me in the middle of a gig with a mic and gave me the mic and said, "Sing." And then from that day on, I would be on the gigs with him,
Ah.
and that was the biggest jazz school that one could imagine, because
Yeah.
it was, just kind of throw yourself into the situation.
Yeah.
Um, with great musicians every night, different people, and yeah, it was a very good school.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just looking, just a little aside. Joyce Glasgow says hi.
Hi, Joyce.
And my friend who's a really good singer, Pierre Chambers, L.M. Booker, and Jay Adelberg, and Lisa Rich.
Oh, cool.
And
Hi, Lisa.
Joyce's grandfather played the clarinet too. Ah, welcome to the
Yeah.
club.
Awesome.
My friend Pierre wants to know if you know Ile Kodash.
I don't.
Sorry, Pierre, no go. So, okay, so and then it said in your bio that you lived in like 10 different locations over your.
Yeah, we moved around a lot. So first I moved to Boston to study at New England Conservatory
Oh,
for a couple of years, um, and then New York. And at some point, my husband, who actually was a musician, he went to Berkeley and then decided it wasn't the life he wanted, and switched gears and became a film animator, like an
oh,
animator for feature films. So
oh,
he moved to LA, and we were on the line with LA for a while.
hmm,
Then he ended up moving to New Zealand, to Wellington, New Zealand, to work on Avatar, on the movie Avatar.
oh,
So for 3 years, I basically lived on airplanes between New Zealand, New York, and Israel.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then we moved again. We moved to back to Israel, and then to London, and then to
Oh,
Vancouver, and then finally to Montreal. So we hopped around the
oh.
globe a bit.
So I have to ask this question. So uh, when you're young, I think it's not as worrisome, but
Mm,
as you grow older, And people talk about moving to other cities. They kind of worry about it. Like they worry if they can continue their career because they've
Mm.
already built it up in one spot and now you're moving to a brand new spot. Did you ever think about that?
I mean, yeah, I think it has its disadvantages for sure
Yeah.
because you uproot yourself every time, right? And you spend time building relationships and community and um, just a workflow, and then you uproot yourself and you have to start that again somewhere else. But at the same time, I feel like you came for a bit to the Orchard of Pomegranates, the vocal intensive that I've done, and I feel like that intensive is kind of an extension of the fact that I've lived many places um, because I mean I really hold on to the people that I connect with, um, and I'm not that concerned about distance, geographical distance, because some people are, if their friendships are only where they are, and if you move away, it's really hard for them to sustain a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
And for me, because I mean, when I wasn't even 20 when I moved to Boston.
Uh-huh.
So, all my friendships and my family and everybody that I moved away from Israel and all these people that I love there. I sustained those relationships through various means, and there wasn't Facebook at the time.
Yeah.
There are so many more aids for that right now, but I sustained these relationships because they mattered. And of course, some fade away and others get stronger and they change and, they get a different shape. But I've really learned to hold relationships in this manner and to keep that connection alive. So at this point, I just feel like I have a lot of homes in different parts of the world, even places I haven't lived, but people that I love live there. So when I'm on tour, I always have places in those cities where my friends live. I always have a place where I can stay and have like a nice meal with someone. I don't feel this loneliness from the separation. So in that way, I think it's good, and you get to explore different cultures and different, it broadens your perspective. So in that way, it's nice also. But it definitely, this last move to Montreal, which was 2.5 years ago now, it was probably the hardest one because we moved with kids. Um, but at the same time, I feel like we found home. I feel like we found our place on this earth. So,
Mm.
so it was worth the challenge.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
Mm.
I when I would think, I mean, I haven't really lived all that many places. I've lived, I mean, for long lengths of time. I'm from Boston actually.
Mm.
Yeah, and then after I went to Berkeley, and after that I moved to San Francisco for 6 months or something, and then I moved to LA, and then I've been here ever since, except for I lived about 3 or 4 months in Austria because I was starting a jazz department in a school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so and I yeah I've spent a lot of time in Japan,
Mm.
but there was some point where I thought, of course, you always kind of consider moving. And I actually wanted to move to New York, but I met my first husband here, and you know what happens. And so, except not for you, apparently, um, but so I would think, well, it's really the same. It's just my consideration. If I'm going to move somewhere, I'm gonna I'm gonna be me in the new
Yeah.
area. I'm gonna be doing the same things. It's just a new area with new people, and so I didn't think too dangerously of it,
Yeah.
or awkwardly.
No, I think it's an adventure. It's great. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it is hard because you need to get familiar with a new place but what I'm realizing is you don't really ever start fresh
Right.
because you come in with your bags on your back, whatever
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are.
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're not someone, you're not that 19-year-old
Yeah,
moving away from home for the first time. That's not the same thing, right?
exactly.
So, and also our community, the jazz community is very, eventually at the end of the day, it's kind of tightly knit somehow. So whenever I've had to move, there was always someone who's like, "Oh, you're moving there. I have a good friend there. You should meet so and so." So right away you kind of meet the first five people. And
Exactly.
then you meet the other people, but you're not coming in there out of nowhere, walking into the club and like walking around introducing. It's not that
Right,
ever.
right.
That hasn't been, I feel our community for the most part is very supportive and very like open to share and to hold each other when we're going through this kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to show people your site because it's a really
Mm,
beautiful site, and
thank you.
uh, and let's go over here. And yeah, I thought,
Thank
wow,
you.
this site is good.
Awesome.
So,
New. I haven't even formally launched it yet because I still
oh,
have some changes to make. But John Madoff, do you know guitarist John Madoff?
his name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he plays a lot with Zorn. We met through Zorn. He has a band called Zion 80, and he actually founded his own record label with Shanier Blumenkrantz, who is a great bass player. It's called Chant Records. They have a lot of great music on there. So he actually helped me make the site. So I'm glad that you like it.
Yeah, I think it's very attractive
Thank you.
and, gets you around in a good way,
That's
you know.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good to
Um,
hear. We definitely put in a lot of work.
yeah. Now, keep saying orchard. It's orchard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've lost my what is orchard of pomegranates?
It's, you know what? It's really an extension of what we just talked about. Um, for a long time, because I moved around so much, and I have three small children, and it was like rough pregnancies and blah 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 that kind of pulled me out of the scene, and at the same time I was constantly doing my work, but my you know my music pulls me in all kinds of directions, right? I do a lullabies album, and then like this really free jazz kind of thing, and all kinds of different directions. So it felt like my life was kind of like a scattered puzzle. And then one day I had this understanding that it's all really one thing. And then I just called it the Orchard of Pomegranates. And everything that I do that is not touring is really the Orchard of Pomegranates. So most of it is really my teaching work at the moment, especially right now. So I have listening hours and then the vocal intensives, and private lessons. But normally we also do house concerts that I curate with visiting musicians from all over the world. We had a duo from London, and just Jay did one. Different people did different things, but so that was part of it. Was starting to develop that house concert series, um, and workshops and things like that. And it really can grow in many different ways, but right now it's mostly my work online with my teaching work and the listening hours and that kind of thing.
I want to come join the listening hour. When is
Oh,
that?
you should. It's every first Sunday of the month at noon my time. So that would be like 9 a.m. for you probably.
Oh yeah, that's part of why I didn't come on this
I
time
heard
because it was like,
that.
oh, I don't know if I can. I could have just stumbled out of bed and rolled over, but every
Yeah, and you're
first Monday.
welcome to. People come, sometimes people join from inside their beds, and I'm totally fine with that.
That's great. Well, I want to. What do you listen to?
Well, everything and anything. Usually, what I do is I choose a theme,
mhm.
and then I choose music around that theme. And some people suggest things also, and I try to incorporate those suggestions. But the idea is that it's not limited to a genre, because that's really how I listen to music. I don't want to narrow myself down into something that's like we're only going to listen to jazz or
Yeah.
to anything, right? I don't know if you were there for a listening hour at the intensive.
No.
Normally I would host them, but this time Malika did that. Malika Zara,
Mhm.
who is my bandmate in Mycale, the vocal quartet. Um, so she did a whole hour on Moroccan music, so why not listen to Moroccan music? Why not listen to any kind of music? So
Yeah,
if it fits the theme and I find it and it's interesting to me, then I'll bring it in.
I see. That's really nice. Yeah, um, I was interviewing a Brazilian pianist the other day, Benjamin Benjamin Tobkin, and
Hmm.
a lot of his career is has been very eclectic and worldwide, which is really pretty wonderful, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, so that was that was a really enjoyable session. Sorry,
Nice.
I'm just checking Facebook to see, am I still connected? My phone is not connected, but oh, yeah, I like to open us up on the phone too,
That's a
just
good
to,
idea.
you
Hmm.
know, but my phone is having trouble. But anyway, I see us on the computer.
Good.
Um, yeah, so now you mentioned your quartet.
Mycale. Hmm.
Yeah, that would be really, it would be nice to hear some of that. Is that okay?
Sure, of course.
Um, so I'm going to come here and I guess I'd go back to you. Should I go up
Sure.
here or?
Do you want me to find something?
Well,
Maybe faster?
I mean, if you just tell me where to look.
Scrolly, scrolly.
By the
Um,
way, did your husband do?
no, this actually, um, I don't know if they're seeing what we're talking about, but
Yeah, they should be
okay.
right here.
So it's illustrator named David Soman, who is actually a distant relative of mine,
Oh,
and he's an amazing children book illustrator. He did all of the Ladybug Girl series, if you know that. You said you have young grandchildren, you might know their books. They're really amazing, called Ladybug Girl. So I asked him to do the artwork for the album, and then this animator called Nat Tuong took that took those illustrations and livened them into an animation.
cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that. Yeah, we're still on. Okay, just
Okay,
checking.
let me see. I'll just send you a link. I think that'll be faster to find something. Let me see. Hmm. Also, to find something that's like we don't have that many videos, unfortunately, with Mycale.
Are
What
you
is it?
sending that to
Well,
me
I'll just send you
in the
this.
chat window?
Yeah, it's just a bit of a snippet, but at least it'll give you a sense. It's little bits from the studio from when we recorded Gomori, our second album. You see it in the chat?
I do.
Alrighty. Here it is.
All righty.
ما فيشنا معيناي وتنو ما معاف ماي ما فيشنا معيناي وتنو ما معاف ماي Siete miedos fantasmales, siete puertas. Das gern zu alle für ihre Land
Wow,
Yeah, I
that's
wish I could
amazing.
figure out an actual video of a song, but I think all the videos are just kind of like a shot of the album cover. So I think this would be more visually stimulating, probably.
Yeah. So, so what's is this you? All of these?
The first one, the Battle of Mycale, isn't, but the next one is, and the next one is. There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is it like a little better to? Oh, 9 years ago. Wow, you've been doing it a long
Yeah,
time.
we've been working together since well, we really started 2007.
Uh-huh.
And this is Basia Schechter,
All right. What did you say?
oh, I said this song is with Basia Schechter in the purple shirt, who did the first album with us, and the second album was done with Sarah Serpa.
Okay.
אדם צריך לשנוא, לאהוב בבת אחת, לאותן עיניים לבכות, לאותן עיניים לצחוק. אדם חייב את הזמן
I haven't heard this in
שיהיה
a
לו
really
זמן
long time.
לכל ואין לו עת שתהיה לו עת לכל חפץ. קהלת לא צדק שאמר באותן ידיים לסוף אבנים, באותן ידיים לזרוק אותם, לעשות אהבה ומלחמה ומלחמה ואהבה. אדם בחייו אין לו זמן, כשהוא מאבד הוא מחפש, כשהוא מוצא הוא שוכח, כשהוא שוכח הוא אוהב, וכשהוא אוהב הוא מתחיל לשכוח. לעשות אהבה במלחמה ומלחמה ואהבה, ולשנוא ולסלוח ולזכור ולשכוח ולסדר ולבלבל ולאכול ולעכב ולשנוא ולסלוח ולזכור ולשכוח ולסדר ולבלבל ולאכול ולעכב את מה שהיסטוריה ארוכה עושה בשנים רבות מאוד.
Wow, that's really cool. It's funny because yesterday I was talking to somebody about, not really loving like kind of the typical, the typical vocal groups,
Mm.
um, anyway, but this is definitely not a typical, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're singing, all the music is by John Zorn.
Yeah.
And he basically, it was his vision to do a vocal quartet. Um, and we arranged all the music, and we found the text. Some of them we wrote, and most of them are actually external sources. This was a biblical source, actually. This is turn, turn, turn again. This is
Ah,
Ecclesiastics, I think it's called in English. I never know the names in English. Kohelet, the nothing new under the sun guy.
all right, right.
Anyways, so no, actually, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. That's not
Oh,
that. This is a spin-off of that. That's why I was thinking about it. This is a response to that text by an Israeli poet called Judah Amichai, where he's basically challenging Kohelet. He's saying, "You're wrong about that. It's not correct that there's a time for everything under the sun. There isn't like a separate time for things. You with one hand you throw stones, and with the other hand you gather them." Is basically this poem.
that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah. So
Huh.
it's been an adventure with them, because I mean it's we're working off of Zorn's music that has a very specific flavor, but we also wanted to bring in our own flavors. And I think for him, it was very important for him that we don't sing in English at all. We brought in one English text, and he said no, no English. So we actually sing in 7 different languages in this band. Um, and I mean, that kind of creates the flavor of the music. So it's definitely not a typical vocal quartet. It's
Yeah,
something else.
that's wonderful. Uh, I have a 7-piece a cappella improv vocal group called Fish to Birds.
Fun. Oh,
And
cool.
so we never know what we're going to sing. We don't arrange and have something. The closest I think we ever got to that was on a record that I did called the Jazz Chamber, and I had fallen in love with a Benny Maupin song called Message to Prez. And so I thought it would be really great to do that. And it was a jazz chamber orchestra. So my friend Bevan Manson, who's a really incredibly talented arranger, pianist, and so we did our fish to bird thing with it because it was very kind of a catchy, funky kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bevan took it and he made it into 3 movements and
Wow.
arranged the chamber orchestra. And then we brought in Benny Maupin to actually play through it on bass clarinet. So it came
Wow.
out great. But that was probably, I'm pretty sure that was like one of the only times in 9 years that we've actually done something you know, that we learned, like a song.
Mm.
Even though we expanded on it, we still all knew the song itself. So we worked that. But
Mm.
yeah, but some of what you did there reminded me, because reminded me a little bit of it because what we do is we'll get into these grooves and harmonies, maybe 2 or 3 of us will work a groove and a harmony and the other few will do another groove and a harmony, that's
Mm.
and then there'll be a soloist and then
Yeah.
that fades and
Mm-hmm.
morphs.
Mm-hmm.
And but the soloist, that's because that's basically what you did. You
Yeah.
had this strong thing, and there was a soloist who stepped outside of it and
Yeah.
worked it, and then you went back in. It's such a great feeling, isn't it? It's just
Mm-hmm. It's
really beautiful to do
beautiful.
that.
It's so great. And to lean in on that, on the other musicians, to have that trust,
Yeah.
especially with vocal groups, it's the intonation and the rhythm, when you don't have a rhythm section and you are basically all of the section, you're the rhythm section and you're the harmony and you're the melodic line and you're the soloist and everything, and you just switch between the parts. I love that. It's really fun. So just to say, the soloist there was Sophia Ray. I don't know if you know her. She's fantastic.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yeah, she's great. And she just also released a new song this week, I think.
Oh,
And Sarah Serpa, who's not in that video, but she's our band member right now. That was Basia Schechter who was singing, of Pharaoh's Daughter. I don't know if you know them. They're also kind of a tzaddik record, like a very prominent person in the Zorn world.
I must admit, I don't really know much about Zorn.
Mm-hmm.
I've only known his name, but I haven't
Yeah.
really investigated.
And the last one is Malika Zara, who we mentioned before. She did the listening hour at the intensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zorn, I mean, he's a brilliant guy. He does so much. He's a saxophonist and a composer, and he owns a record label called Sadiq that all of this music he releases. And he also he owns the Stone in New York.
What is that?
It's a club that's curated by musicians monthly, I think. Right now, I'm not sure what the format is. Right now, they're at NYU, but so he really, I think he's a big inspiration for me in the sense that, first of all, he is someone who creates his own reality. He's accumulated over many years. He's accumulated a large family of musicians that he treats like family, that he hires for different things and he creates platforms for. And so, his world is constantly growing and constantly like putting out his own work, but also creating ways for other people to put their work in the world, which is really special. Yeah, and then he created this whole scene basically around himself, which is he calls it the radical Jewish culture, which is basically, there was the whole klezmer revival in the 80s and 90s, but he took it another step forward because he's really he has a real edge sometimes in his work. Some of his work is very melodic and very lush, but a lot of his work is very edgy. He can go far into avant-garde jazz, but also punk and different things. So he wanted to have Jewish music that has that edge and not just the klezmer, the traditional klezmer. And he created the series, and really the series birthed a scene that may not have existed otherwise, probably would not have existed otherwise.
Yeah.
And it gave a home to a lot of musicians who wouldn't have a place in other labels that have a different agenda. There wasn't anything like that before he created it. So yeah, so it's really
interesting. So
yeah.
did you find him basically in this, or did he find you?
Well, I knew him, and I loved his music before I knew who he was, and I loved his music before I met him.
Yeah.
And when I moved to New York, shortly after, I made the album. The first song you played, Tapuach, was from an album that I made. I wrote a song cycle based on the Song of Songs, which is erotic poetry from the Bible, basically. And I just made it because I wanted to make it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I played it for Basia, who was in this video that we just saw, and she forwarded it to him.
Oh.
And then he called me But I mean, my jaw was on the floor because I had already loved his work, So, and
Yeah.
then he released that, and a couple years later, he started this band. He started Mycale. Yeah.
Are you the arranger for this group?
We all arranged. Actually, this first album that we just heard from, we really co-arranged everything. On the second album, we already were living all in different places. Malika was in Morocco, and I was in Canada, and Sophia and Sarah were in New York, but we weren't in the same geography, so it was very hard to arrange together. And
Yeah.
so on the second album, we allotted specific tunes to each of us, and we each arranged our own. And we
Were you
wrote
in
for each other, of course, but
Were you in the same area when you recorded, or did you
well,
record like
yeah,
sending it
no, we
around?
recorded live. Yeah, no, we all came to New York. New York is kind of home base for this band. So, I mean, we meet a lot of the music actually we worked on tour. We would meet like a week before our first gig and get an Airbnb somewhere and workshop things. And then but eventually we met in New York to record. And it was like a day in the recording studio,
Yeah.
as it is.
So, what kind of gigs does this group get?
Well, right now we haven't played a show in a couple of years now. But a lot of the work we did was on tour with Zorn when he would
Ah,
do
okay.
his Masada marathons. This is part of the Masada series of his, which is an ongoing series that he's been doing for nearly 30 years now.
Oh,
Um, and this was book 2 of his Masada series. So we would tour with like 30 musicians, and do these 4-hour shows. Every band plays 4 songs, kind of thing. So we did a lot of those in
wow.
big festivals.
That's big. That's a big company.
Oof, yeah, it's and incredible. Just the musicians are, mind blowing. You're backstage seeing the most incredible musicians you can imagine. Um,
Your
and then
group is always a cappella, right?
our group was always a cappella, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and we also did a bunch of European festivals and Canadian festivals in US and just all around it. The last tour we did was actually in Colombia and Ecuador.
Oh,
Yeah, so it really varied from small clubs to big stages with
very
different groups.
interesting. And that music was very rhythmic.
Hmm.
Is most of your repertoire rhythmic in some form or another?
Not necessarily. A lot of it, but not. I wouldn't say all of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty varied. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm kind of interested. I am interested. I don't have to say kind of. I'm interested in hearing. Uh, is this where it is? Hearing like a I don't know if you would call it a ballad, but something more along those lines. Is that a possible thing to
You
get
mean
from this?
from this band?
Yeah.
Oh. Um. mm, 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 mm. Yeah, I'm kind of blanking on the titles.
Well, if I
uh,
look at this.
yeah, that's not. But I would look at the other album. It's the pink one.
Oh, sorry.
No
Sorry, hold on. I'm
worries.
I'm, I'm trying. So, I don't
There's a pink album called Gomori. And I think there's a song there that's called Mumia, which is kind of a slower one.
how do you spell Gamori?
Gomory. Let me see. I'll just look for a minute at my
Oh, here we go.
Okay, yeah. You know what? Let's hear Belial. That's I think Sarah Serpa's arrangement.
Okay.
And if I remember it correctly, it's quite slow. I can't remember right now the title.
Okay. Let's hear.
Dum, ding, dum, bum,
Oh no, that's not the one I was thinking. It's a nice one though, but go back a minute. Actually, let's try Pliel. I think maybe. I think that one is, yeah. That one. Oh no, that's not what I meant.
Wait, that's not what I meant. Come back. Okay, so then there's Pashar, or
Let's see what that is. I don't
Pashar.
remember. Yeah, sure. Let's try it.
It's funny.
What's the name of that song? Okay, let's see this one. This is Sarah's arrangement.
Okay.
This one is Sarah's arrangement.
É na noite escura que vejo mais claro. En silencio que escucho a mi corazón. Na solidão tenho sentimento raro. Bet mama ani shoma'at et libi. Kulshi mashi, kulshi mashi. Du, 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 du. Simples,
Cool. Now, I would like to give a little equal time to your the new, like for instance, the new recording that you put out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear a little bit of that and let people
Yeah,
hear
so
that.
there isn't that much yet online, but there is a song there that's called Dissipating Discus.
Dissipating?
Yes, a double S, I, discus.
Something like that?
Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
So that one, and then maybe, yeah, we'll see.
Good. Well, let's definitely watch this.
Silver sliver swelling, swelling, glowing, showing, always knowing. 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 Silver sliver swelling,
Dissipating discuss.
I love to ovulate when the moon is full and bleed when she almost disappears.
when the moon is full and bleed when she almost disappears.
Swelling, swollen, glowing, showing, always knowing. Silver sliver, swelling, swollen, glowing, showing, always knowing.
I love to ovulate when the moon
glowing,
is full
showing,
and
always
bleed when
knowing.
she
Silver
almost
sliver,
disappears.
swelling, swollen, swelling, glowing, always.
That's wild. It's great.
Yeah, so this whole album that's coming out next month,
Uh-huh.
it's all about the moon. So it's really broad. It's actually, there's so many different kinds of music in there. That's the far end of the spectrum for sure. But that's part of it, right? It's part of at least a woman's relationship to the moon, the ovulation and the bleeding.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, yeah, as I was watching it, I was like, oh, cool. She's really just, saying what a lot of people wouldn't say,
Mm,
and so that came into my mind. Also,
mhm.
it's fun and stimulating, to listen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I love this project. It's really rich in sound and in many voices also, because we worked with Jay as part of this, not of this song, but of this album.
I
He
actually
want me
heard
to.
her on it. Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
did
I
you?
didn't, of course, anybody who's a Jay fan will pick her out, and I forget what song I was listening to, but I was like, oh, there's Jay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Probably. Did you hear the one that's on my website? Maybe
I think probably I did. Yeah.
that one. Yeah, it's a fun one. But if you want, I can play a song for you that you haven't heard yet,
Oh,
probably.
good. Okay.
Um, and then there's a whole choir of improvising vocalists that are conducted by DB Boyko, who has her own kind of cueing system that she created with Christine Duncan. And she basically cues them, and then they give her what they give her based on those cues. And we really tried to feature a lot of these vocalists. So there's all these different kind of special voices in there that get to shine. And I love that. I love working with singers, as you know, as you can
Yeah.
tell.
Now, just a little bit more about the queuing system. So I'm trying to imagine what that would be. So does she?
Yeah.
It like I remember there was this drummer named Billy Mintz, who's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful avant-garde player, and what he would do is he would invite a whole bunch of bass players.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
like, he would end up with 20 bass players. Then he would write
That's a lot of bass.
yeah, he wrote like a little piece of paper, and he wrote 1, play and B as fast as you can, 2, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it was. And so then he would just call out the numbers.
Mm.
And then everybody would follow the numbers. So that was, I guess, a queuing system.
Mm-hmm. Hers is more of like hand cues. So she could go like this, for example, for celestial sounds, whatever that means to you, or like pointillistic, or long tones, and then she would give you the downbeat. And if she wanted you to change the notes, she would go like that.
Oh,
That's a whole like intricate
Yeah,
system
yeah,
that you need to have memorized
yeah,
so that
yeah.
you can respond in time.
Uh-huh,
And then she
uh-huh.
has things that play with time, like she would slow down time or speed it up or, use readings or different things. So this particular piece was actually kind of a chance piece. I organized lots of sentences. So the whole project, basically, I asked women from different parts of the world to send me texts about the moon. Most of them wrote original texts, and some chose texts from other sources. Um, and then a lot of the poems I composed as one unit, and some of them I chopped up and took like a sentence from here and a sentence from there. And for this piece, I had maybe 30 sentences listed from a lot of different poems. And she randomly like would cue a number, and then people would do something with that sentence. And when we did it in the studio, there were versions without that ovulation sentence at all.
Whoop, she froze. She totally froze. Okay.
Oh
Oh,
no.
there you are. There you
Okay,
are.
I could
Okay.
hear you the whole time. Oh no, it says internet connection is unstable.
Oh, well, we'll
Hope
keep
for the best.
going.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
Anyways, so that was she happened to stumble, I think, upon that sentence, and the one version that we did in the studio that had that sentence just worked the best, and we could tell in real time, so we kind of expanded it, and it became the center of the song.
I know how that is.
I-
That fish to birds with that we grab onto strange
Mhm.
sentences and stuff, because
Mhm.
it works, or
Yeah, and
we're
I
in the
mean,
moment.
yeah, and it really like actually means a lot to me to have that sentence in the song,
Yeah.
and in this album, because like you said, it's I think it's part of just women stepping out of our own like little cocoons, right? And
Yeah,
just speaking about stuff that is part of our lives, and why shouldn't we not speak about it? You
exactly.
know, how many
Exactly.
songs were written about getting wounded in war, right? Like, or something else that, like men bleeding. Why should we not talk about our bleeding?
Hey, Joyce is asking if you could talk about your anchor word exercises and scent related exercises with vocal improvisation.
Mm, well, um, basically what I do is um, I try to create ways to open up ideas for people, for improvisers, how to like get them more connected, and how to, um, you know, open up parts of themselves that they are maybe not accessing,
Yeah.
improvisers. So I just try different things to get there.
Uh-huh.
So this time I worked with poetry. Last time we worked with scents, with fragrances.
So whatever comes to mind when you have a scent, is that
Well, not
basically?
exactly. What we did was we created an arc. I asked people to bring in their favorite scents, and we created an arc of scents, like going from sweet to whatever, lemony, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they had to create an improv that went with those scents, and they could smell them. And it was just a way
Something to
a way
focus on.
yeah, exactly, a way to
Yeah.
engage with improvisation and to kind of explain the idea of developing an arc through your soloing and to developing a narrative, getting from one point to the
That's
next.
good. Yeah, yeah, because that actually is one of the most difficult things to keep
Mhm.
moving, keep focused ahead instead of what you just did, or
That's right.
how people will analyze themselves or beat themselves up or so
Mhm.
it's good to have something to actually um, an exercise to help people to move
Yeah.
move
And I
forward.
think for a lot of improvisers who are less experienced improvisers, there's one of the challenges that I run into a lot is really having the forethought, like you say, right? Because people have a lot of great musical ideas, and maybe they even have really great ears and really hear the harmony, but their ideas are kind of like chopped up in space,
Hmm.
and they're not necessarily connecting or developing or unfolding in a way that like weaves something from beginning to end. And having kind of a composer's hat on when you're improvising, I
Yeah,
feel is very helpful.
yeah.
So those
I
are the kind of things I want to direct people to try. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. Dina DeRose says hello.
Hi.
Hi, Dina. Yeah, I in my teaching and my workshops, and I talk about that in different ways. I mean, well, that's the fascinating thing. I've held workshops consistently, up until a few years ago. Then I would just kind of haphazardly do them. But God, when I met my husband about 20 years ago, I was doing like sometimes 8 workshops a month, and I had a crowd of people showing up too, because that was a real different time, and people weren't really getting it online very much, and and that wasn't just me doing workshops, it was inviting guest artists, and but so you always what the thing that would always fascinate me about that is that we all agree, the professional people who have experienced all this agree on what is good and what's promising, what's worthy, and then but everybody does it a different way because of their own personal experience, right?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I love that. Yeah. And I feel like doing those the vocal intensives.
Yeah.
So the third one, the first was just with Jay. We did a whole week together. And then in August, I did one online. We were 9 teachers. And this time, just last weekend, also we were 9 teachers. And I feel like I'm learning so much from my peers just attending other workshops, right? Because
Yeah.
as you say, everybody has just a slightly different angle that they're looking through. And just, hearing people talk about music, suddenly you're like, oh, have these little moments of realization and readjustment of your way of thinking. I love it. It's wonderful to see other people teach, and also to teach in that kind of context, to be a teacher in that kind of context where you're exposed and you can, the fact that it's so intense is nice for me as the facilitator, because I find that as I'm teaching, I'm finding all these threads that go through all the different teachings and all the different teachers. And being the facilitator and the one who's in the room always, I can kind of point those out to the students, how different ideas from different people really are kind of the same idea in variation. And then I think things start to click and things start to fall into place and reveal themselves.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's I as the host. So there were a few times when I was biting my lip, actually. How somebody was teaching, and I really didn't love it, but only a few times. And then the other times, they're not going to know your student like you do. So you understand how that student thinks and what they've been through. So you are really, it's handy so that you're there and you can say whatever will instigate a real cognition, Yeah.
Exactly.
It's great.
So do you want me to play for you one of those songs that you haven't heard yet?
Yeah, sure. I'd love it. By the
So
way,
how do I do it? Yeah.
well,
It's not anywhere yet. It's just on my computer.
yeah. So when you hit,
Well, Premiere.
let's see, you could do a few different things. I actually like to hit the share button because then you can actually share the computer sound which is a
Yeah.
better sound.
Oh yeah, I could do that from my end if that's okay with you.
The only
But
thing
you can-
is that you have to, you just, people are going to be seeing your screen, so you want, I mean, you might want them to see something special or not. Doesn't really matter.
I
But
think I can share it without sharing the visual. Do you
can, but
know-
I just don't, I'm not sure that the sound is, oh, you mean
yeah.
share the
so-
screen without sharing the visual?
Yeah, you can go to advanced and then there's music or computer sound only. You know that option?
I actually don't.
It's nice because then you don't have to share your screen. So I don't know if I have sharing capacity, but it looks like I do.
You should, yes.
Did I do it?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sharing.
By the way, I don't have that on my advanced sharing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you later.
Okay.
Just trying to think. I'll play one. If you want to stop it in the middle, let me know because it's kind of long.
Okay.
But it's very J focused, so I like it for that.
Okay, now I'm actually going to step out of the room for a
Okay.
minute. You know,
Okay.
because you know why? Because 2
Okay.
hours is a long time to sit here.
Yeah.
But I'm right around the corner, so I'm going to hear everything. And so
Okay. Perfect.
yeah, so excuse me, everybody,
No
for
problem.
right back. Okay, I'll be. You continue, and I will be right back.
Okay.
I wore the cape light like a moon. Draped fishskin fabric gown over my body, fell into the frozen sea.
Legs all metallic scale, dripple opal pieces, and fractures of the stars. I fished for nocturnal lovers.
I entered a
among
tall,
an
dark
empty
city
land of gray art.
where a copper woman stood watch.
Her hand aloft a flame, casting freedom fire over an oxen city.
I had once been a woman. I had once been a human. I had once been made of trees and huckleberries. I had once been a woman.
I had once been a woman. I had once been a human. I had once been made of trees and huckleberries. I had once been a
A body transparent as celestial light. I turned my house from leaf to stone.
Try to make this new ceramic body whole.
Looked up one night beyond the iron fence and saw her following me.
The way a creature intrigued follows one home.
I alone in that tumbled concrete city. Suddenly knew a great secret. That beneath it all was the same great earth.
That beneath it all was the same great
And above it all was the same great sky.
sky and the earth
And the earthworms
and the wild birds,
and the wild birds
different.
knew no difference. Ah,
and the trees. My spruce tree mother so far away. My bones were true, saturated from a lifetime among the sifted wings of dragonflies and rustle of sleeping geese. No world is separate.
I was always alone. Wild and curious. Exploring the edges of comfort and comforted by
lifetimes. And my mother and all grandmothers have known her.
All of our flesh and forms visited, all our sacred poetry. The lines of our every moment lived
Are
revered by the moon. And the moon, she follows me everywhere and reminds me
I am
always home.
Wow. Great.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this piece.
That's
I love Jay
wonderful.
on this piece.
Did you guys record it at the same time? Were you following each other?
Yeah, well, that last bit when we're singing alone is actually not composed, it's improvised.
Right.
Yeah, we just did a bunch of versions and this was the nicest
Oh,
one.
I see.
I mean,
Uh,
we recorded live the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everybody in the same space.
Very nice. Do you You're getting a lot of nice comments. And Dina,
Oh,
yeah, Dina, well, she was asking how it was recorded, overdubbed, but it was
no.
different live performances, and then
It
you
was
chose.
no, it was actually live. It was we the choir stood in semicircle. Jay and I were next to them, and the band was in another nook in the same room. Everybody was in the same room,
Hmm.
and we recorded live. And then, I mean, mostly I chose full takes of songs. And in this song, just, when there are specific sections that are so distinct, then you can kind of choose between different takes. And in this song, I think the end came from a separate take than the
Yeah.
rest of the song, but all all was recorded live. Yeah.
That's the beauty of being in the studio,
It
You can
is,
do that.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think it's also in some ways our responsibility to, when you're presenting a recording rather than a live show, to to make it as good as it can be. Of course, you know, for me, part of good as it can be is for it to sound authentic. I'll never use auto tune or things like that for on my own recordings. I don't like that because I love the natural quality of the voice. I don't want to mask it. I like the fact that it sounds live, but I want to give the best performance of live that I can, so that it's,
Very
you know
nice.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
sure,
it's kind
sure.
of a hybrid of this really raw live experience and also studio work, that to refine it and give something very whole to the listener, so that it really encapsulates the piece that you want to create.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Roland saying, "Is it just me, or is this very microtonal?" Yes, it's not just you. Oh, hi, Bill Winkler. He loves it, and Joyce, great moon duet with you and Jay. When did you meet Jay? How did you meet her?
uh, I met her a
We're
while
speaking of.
back.
Sorry, we're speaking of Jay Clayton right now.
Yes,
Okay. Hi, Jay. You're probably
the
listening.
the great Jay Clayton.
Oh.
Um, we met at IAJ many moons ago. They had there was a singer showcase type thing at Chez Suzette, which was a cafe in Midtown Manhattan, and I was invited to do a couple songs, and it was kind of like it didn't feel like a big deal gig to me, but I was happy to do it, and I did it with Anat Fort on piano and an oud player. I don't remember who played oud, but it was oud, piano, and voice. And I think I sang Nature Boy and one other thing. Um, and then when I finished playing, both Jay and Katie Bull approached me after the concert and just told me that they loved it. And Jay has been one of my heroes since I was a teenager. I discovered her, I think, when I was around like 14, 15 or so. And it's like she's been one of my favorite singers since. So it was a big deal for me for her to come up to me and say that she liked my singing.
Yeah.
And then we stayed in touch over the years. Um, and even did a few small things together. And then at one point, I did a residency with Mycale at the Stone, at Zorn's place, the Stone in New York, and we each had a night of our own music. And I did this piece that was like 2015. I
Hmm.
did a version of the Lunar Meditations, and I invited her to sing on it, and it was just so great with her. It was clear that she had to be part of this project. So when we recorded, I invited her to come up to Montreal, and she did. And then since then, so she came up that time, which was 2018, and then last year she came again, and we did the first intensive. And just she's become a huge part of my life. I mean, she's been a huge part of my life, but in the last few years, even more so. She's really become a significant part of my life, and I love her, and I am inspired by her, and I admire her. Yeah, she's something.
Me too.
Yeah.
She said you're making her cry. she's usually on listening to these shows. So I figured because you're on today too, she was definitely here. But yeah, she's an amazing person. We've done a few different things together over the years, and I just feel like I feel like family with her. She's just, she's very, she's so down to earth and inspirational and real open to connecting, Yeah.
And the depth that she brings into every situation, whatever she does,
Yeah.
just so profound. And it feels like it comes very natural to her, that,
Yeah.
that ability to go really deep, really fast,
Yeah.
and get to the heart of things. So
Yeah.
I admire that.
Yeah. Hey, today I was thinking, I was kind of over the last bunch of months when I've been doing this, I tried to ask like one question out of everybody, but that kind of fell away. However, today I was thinking, well, maybe I can ask this question because it's a good question. What do you define as success in our experience, our business particularly?
Oh, you have a sore throat?
No, I have a chronic cough that I've had for 20 years.
Okay.
So I use these are really great. They're Vocal Zone. I found them in England, and they don't cure my cough, but they stop my cough. So
That's good.
yeah.
So what do I define as success in our line of work, in our bizarre line of work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think, to me, moments when I feel a sense of success are moments where there's a feeling like you've moved something in someone, where like what you did made an impact for someone on their lives, on the way they think about music. So that can be in music making, and it can be in teaching, and in mentoring. Those moments come and they're precious, and I try to really remember them also, because we don't have, maybe, it's a smallish community, but I think there's resonance within this community, and that really matters to me. That really feels good to me when I'm part of manifesting that.
Yeah. Okay. My friend reminded me of the question that I did ask people, which was, what record did you wear out in your youth?
Oh my God. There's so many. I'm trying to think, like, what jumps to mind. I mean, I think, Big Science by Laura Anderson. Is one of them, but there were many.
Yeah.
I really, like, honestly, in my room as a child, I mean, as a young, like a teenager or preteen, I had a whole wall of shelves and all of these LPs on it. So I just would I would pick blind and put something on. And then if I loved something, I would just play it more.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, then I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would get stuck on one side of an LP, and I would really know that one side, but I never flipped it over, So, I mean, I heard a lot of different music, really. It's hard to call one record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty cool story.
Mm.
That was based on your uncle's gift to you of all the albums, right?
My uncle, and later I got some from my grandfather and from my father, and I started collecting my own. And it was like this. And
on and on and on, yeah.
I still do. I mean, this album, the Lunar album, is coming out on a double LP. I love it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's going to be clear, so you can look at the moon.
Oh, cool. Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah, I love it. It's my favorite form of listening to music because the art gets like substantial space on it. You're really holding an object and spending time with it, and you need to be actively like you
Yeah.
need to put it on and then to flip it over, and like it's a whole thing. It's a ritual.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really nice. I agree with you. My husband has a big collection, like thousands and thousands, and also of 45s. And every now and then we'll get into it. He and I have somewhat different tastes. I mean, he's really into rock and blues, old rock and blues,
Cool.
and which a lot of it I like too. But so there's some early like 50s music, that pop music, that I just it it hurts my ears. It's like I'll listen
Like
to it.
offensive to you.
Yeah, it's like so white bread. It's just painful. You know, there's no real heart or soul or something. And so he'll play a song and I'll suffer through, and then I'll say, okay, we have to listen to something totally different. Because it just hurts me.
Is he okay with your music? Does he like
Yeah,
yours?
oh no,
Not
well,
your own. I don't mean your own, of course.
no.
I would hope that he likes your music.
Well, he's not really a big jazz fan, actually. And when I met him, and I realized that he was not a jazz person, I just considered it for a second, and then I just thought,
Yeah.
I'll get what I need from somebody else in that area. And then I also bought him a drum set because when he was a kid, he had played drums. So I figured, well, if he has if he gets into it, then he'll listen more. And actually, that was a good idea because he didn't play for that long because his wrists bothered him. But Mark Ferber, he loved Mark Ferber. I was like, oh my God, he loves Mark Ferber, So it did open up the doorway, So, and when we were going out, to clubs, I would, especially if a drummer, kind of, to me, it was like, oh, I bet Gary would like this drummer, 'Cause, but he, for a while he didn't totally understand that, just subtle things about being a musician and a jazz musician, of course, just little silly, subtle things. Like, I remember we hadn't been married very long, and we went out to see somebody, and I was so excited. And on the way home, I was talking about it, and he got pissed off. He was like, he thought I was kind of putting him down somehow because he didn't know, maybe he didn't know about it. And once that was handled, that was fine. He never thought that again. But I had to tell him, no, this is what we do. We get excited and then we talk about it, So very interesting,
Wow, but I think you're so smart to say, I'll get this part from someone else.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big, I've been with my man for, I don't know, 20 odd years. And I think, people have this expectation that one person should fill all their, check all their boxes. And I think that's a crazy thing to want from one person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you outsource for some stuff.
Yeah. I like that. You outsource. I like that. That's good. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, there's other areas too that we're a little different, but there's a real broad area where we're very much the same. And I didn't even realize it until I was living with him that part of me was strong, and also we're like I am, even if you break it down to your houses, your horoscope houses, I have absolutely no earth, and I'm very very heavy on the air. And my husband is totally balanced in all 12, he's, and he's very stable. So he has given me the stability in that area, and also family stability too. He has two daughters who are wonderful, and then I've given him, fluidity and improvisation and that kind of stuff.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Mm,
I should write a song about that.
yeah, you should. Sounds like you have the beginning.
So Dina is asking if Meredith Monk was an inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. I love her. I love her work. Yeah, she's incredible. Of course. Yeah.
And Roland is asking, is the Lunar album a CD or an actual vinyl? I think it's vinyl, right? Yeah.
It's the double vinyl.
Yep. There you go, Roland. He's probably going to go buy one.
Well, we welcome it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Because it's nice, I'm sure you have those experiences when listeners write to you and you know that your music is playing in somebody's home. That's a big deal, isn't it? You asked before about a feeling of success. Like, I love that. I love hearing from people after they've had an experience with my music, because you make these things and you put them in the world, and you're basically setting them free, and you have no idea what they're doing.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you ever did the path of, regular gigging or weddings or that kind of thing.
Weddings, I did a few, and it was very clear to me that it's not for me.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't. I did a lot of jazz gigs, and I still do sometimes, because I just love it. I love singing standards. I love, that's where I feel like I got my sea legs or whatever it's called. But I don't like performing functional music. It's not for me. So for a long time, what I did was do things that were not music related to make money.
Okay.
Do other things and then make my music. Until finally, now my work is all around my own music and teaching and things like that, but kind of things that I've kind of created and are in line with my artistic vision. But when I need to be a function for something, it doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah,
It's great. It supports so many musicians, and I love that.
Yeah.
And of course, it's always beautiful to be part of somebody's celebration. But
Sure.
yeah.
Well, it's kind of uncommon to find people who haven't done it, and it's pretty cool. I've actually kind of looked at that over the years, especially maybe in the last half of my life so far. And I've looked at the artists that I like are, they seem to be full of, I'm not sure how to put it, full of their art, and they're putting forth this very committed and honest expression of their art. And I've just looked at that over the years and thought, I've wondered about that, because I grew up in the other way. I grew up, doing just working, and even when I was young, and at Berkeley, for instance, we were, and also when I came to LA, we were doing like 9 gigs a week, and there was funk gigs and weddings and artistic gigs. There was everything, and we were always working. But the artistic gigs were in there, but they weren't the focus. And so I wondered about how how it would have been if I had had that focus from the beginning. And then when you're halfway through your career and you decide you want to focus on that, there's just interesting considerations about that, and challenges,
Yeah. Well, I think every path you take has its, you're choosing the wounds you're going to carry in some ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean that gives you a lot to do those things, to be a working musician in that way, gives you, it gives you stage experience. It gives you
Sure.
things. Yeah, it's just for me, I feel like I can't really do things that feel dishonest.
Yeah.
And when I was doing function gigs and things like that, I always felt bad after.
Mm.
It never felt joyous to me, or I felt like I had to be fake and I had to like pretend,
Yeah.
and that, I couldn't do that. But it's not, I know a lot of amazing musicians who do that and don't have those feelings. It's not like that's a prerequisite to doing those gigs
Right,
at all.
right,
It's
right,
just
right.
for me personally, it was like, what am I doing? No, this is not.
Yeah,
I'm not where I should be.
yeah, yeah, I
Just know
understand.
those things, and you need to honor them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, but I do love, love, love singing jazz, singing standards, and that's a whole other thing. And I feel like when I do that, I approach it from an authentic place, and rather than like trying to emulate something or be something that someone else thinks I should be.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Roland wants to know how he can buy the album.
Oh, let me put the link here, and then if you don't mind sharing it, then
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Can you
So,
find it through your site as well?
yeah, of course. Yeah, I just put in the chat, in our chat, my
Okay.
Bandcamp, which is the easiest way.
Yeah. There you go, Roland.
Thank you, Roland.
Yeah. Oh, there it goes. Yep. Oh, I kind of was interested. Again,
Hmm.
kind of. I have to remove that word from my vocabulary. I was interested in seeing the song on YouTube that had the cartoons.
Oh, sure. We can do
Can we
that.
watch that and tell us about that?
Yeah, so
Oh, I'm
when
sorry. Can you? Oh, yeah. It just asked me if I wanted to share and stop your sharing. Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Sorry about
That's
that.
all right.
I forgot to stop.
That's all right.
Yeah, so when my kids were babies, um, we were gonna go to Israel to visit family, and my long-standing partnership with Anat has always been Anat Fort's pianist. It's always been a very central part of my work,
Hmm.
and we had never recorded an album together. So we were talking about, let's do a duo album. And Anat was saying, we have to make it a lullabies album because I'm sure you have a bunch of lullabies in your pocket right now. And then we made this record. So it's all lullabies. We basically we think of it as lullabies for all ages, not for children only.
Uh-huh.
And the illustrations were done by David Soman, who is an artist, a great artist, a children's book illustrator, who did all the Ladybug Girl series and other beautiful books. And he did the illustrations, and an animator named Nat Truong did the animation for this
Okay, great.
right there. And it's for my boy and about him.
Oh, all right.
נשיר ונרקוד. עוד מעט נראה ציפור מצייצת, עוד מעט נשמע חתולה מייללת, עוד מעט, אבל בינתיים מאור, ילד מתוק, נמשיך לעצום עיניים. מאור, גוזל שלי, נחלום עוד חלום או שניים. פרו, 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 פרו,
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
Love,
Good
very
grammar
lovely.
and
Thank you. Yeah, I love this album. It's very, it's very contrasting in some ways to the Lunar album that's really like has this wild aspect to it, and this one, it's very soft. It's very caressing. Yeah.
Very lovely, yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah. Well, let's see, Joyce said she thinks it's great that you don't feel like you have to also conform to singing in regular gigs that don't necessarily feed your soul, and that you recognize and act upon your intuitive, creative purposes and dreams. Absolutely.
Thank you, Joyce.
And Bill Winkler said, I want this album. I guess he was talking about that particular one. Is that an album?
It's also on Bandcamp.
Okay.
On my Bandcamp, everything's there.
Okay, great. Oh, Roland just had a new baby grandchild come this year. So he said, it's so beautiful. I'm going to have my 10-month-old granddaughter listen to this. She's very musically
Amazing.
receptive.
I love it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, we're coming towards the end here.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Sure. I mean, I would love to share some of Pneuma's music with you. Pneuma is an album, a band, a collective band that I'm part of. That's 3 clarinets and voice. Yeah, and it's a fun project. We released our album last year, and it's all music about the wind.
Nice.
Let me see. I think I have it. Shall I share from here?
Sure.
Okay. So this song is let me see. You're gonna see it like this. It's a conversation with my friend Ora, who was a bass player I worked with a lot in Israel, and she passed away. And it's kind of my conversation with her in that I transcribed a solo of hers and based this composition on her solo. So this is what that is. Do you hear it? I don't think I shared sound. Let me see that again. Sorry, I sometimes all these buttons. All right, let's do it again. All right.
Yes.
Now you hear it.
Cool. So now, what about that composition? Did you compose some of
Yeah,
it, or?
I composed it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I mean, writing for this quartet is not unlike working with Mycale in that, it's three melodic instruments and untempered instruments. So we rely on each other for all the aspects of music, right? For holding the rhythms, for holding the intonation, for, leaning into each other when we improvise. So I love working in this quartet, and we all brought music into the band, but this particular piece is mine. But we all composed for it, so it's nice to play with different people's mindsets.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. What is the next thing that people can tune in to experience you and your world?
Well, I mean, I'm doing an online thing on the. Okay, I'm blanking on all the dates. I think it's the 16th. Maybe I'll post it in the comments later because I don't have it off the top of my head.
Would it be on your site?
I haven't updated it yet. No,
Okay.
I should. It will be maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
But the big thing that's coming up is the album release on January 12th, and we're kind of trying to figure out what that's going to be. But definitely, if you follow me on Facebook, you'll find out what that is.
Okay.
There's going to be something January 12th.
All right. And my friend was wondering if you're familiar with David Broza.
Yes, 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 of course. It's a big star.
There you go, Roland. There's your answer. Okay.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Thanks,
there's
Ayelet.
more comments rolling in.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can read. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on,
You.
and I'll be following along.
Thank you. Vice versa. I really appreciate this beautiful, special time to spend together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's been great.
And thanks for what you do for
Thank you.
the music community. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm
Thank
just
you.
going to tell you, you can stay or leave, but I'm just going to tell people that tomorrow I have Rick Baptist on, and he is a trumpet player who has played probably on every movie that you've ever seen in the last 30 or 40 years. And so he's like a incredible, well-known, well-respected studio guy, and he's also the president of the LA Musicians Union. And then next week we have Sasha Boutros, singer. She's an international singer. And then Tuesday, Darlene Koldenhoven, who started out as a super studio singer, and she was one of the singers with Claire Fisher for a long time in his group. She's very interesting. Her career is cool. And then this pianist and singer Bill Cantos, who's very well known in certain circles and really has done a lot of very interesting things. So that's next week, you guys. And but I hope I'll see you all tomorrow. And one little plug: I have my next single is coming out, and that's going to be coming out on December 23rd, and you'll be seeing like the little announcements. It's coming. So there you go. I'm going to have to change that because people will get tired of that. Oh God, there she goes again,
No, you need to remind the people. What can you do? We're bombarded from everywhere. I appreciate reminders.
Me too.
I do, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot,
Thank
Ayelet.
you.
It was really a pleasure.
For me as well. See
Thank you.
soon.
Have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye.